Yo, what's going on, guys? Today, we're going to be ranking every single evolution in Clash Royale, from the very worst all the way up to the very best. So as always, guys, let me know in the comment section whether you guys agree or disagree with each one of my ratings. So guys, starting it off as the very worst evolution in Clash Royale right now, we have the Evolved Snowball. I feel like Evolved Snowball is just so pointless because the whole point of Snowball is to kind of move troops outside of your push or like away from your push. But for example, if you have like a balloon, your opponent plays, say, a Mega Minion, you will Evo Snowball it, right? And then the balloon is like moving towards their tower, but then you Snowball the Mega Minion, then it actually will bring the Mega Minion closer back to your balloon, and it will actually help the opponent when you have that Evo Snowball. So it's kind of counterintuitive half the time. Now, next up in the F tier as well, we definitely have to put the Evo Tesla, guys. Evo Tesla, I mean, it's just like basically 1/10 of what an Evo Cannon is, because Evo Tesla, you get like a very small, pulsating area to kill enemy units, and it doesn't even do that much damage. But then with Evo Cannon, you could cover half the map and the opponent's side and deal way more damage. So it's really a no-brainer between Evo Tesla and Evo Cannon. It's only really viable in Xbow just because Xbow decks are kind of forced to have Tesla over a cannon. Now, guys, I think we also have to put another evolution here in the F tier. I'm definitely going to have to bring the Barbs in F tier, guys. Barbs, I mean, I just haven't seen Barbs for the longest time, man. Nobody plays them, and I feel like Barbs are just... yeah, they're just so mid right now, and that kind of just makes the evolution pretty bad too, just because they're so bad right now. Like, everyone would rather play a Valkyrie. Even in Lava Hound, I never see Barbs anymore. And yeah, the evolution, it's not the best, but it's not the worst ever. It's just that Barbs are so bad, and that's why the evolution is bad. But they used to be way more scary back when they could, like, one-shot goblins or just do a lot more than they currently do. Now, I think we have to move up from the F tier with this one. For the Evo Wizard, I am going to put it in the D tier. Honestly, as far as usage rate, Evo Wizard is definitely quite low, probably close to the Evo Tesla, maybe just a little bit above it. It's kind of used in like Sparky decks or like some random things here and there, but I feel like the Evo Wizard is just so bad right now because, it was honestly kind of good in a similar state to where it is right now. It didn't really get that big of a nerf, but the thing about it is I feel like ever since Goblin came out, there's been so much lightning to counter Wizard, and you can only play the Evo Wizard if you have the normal Wizard in your deck, so it kind of messes you up, right? And also, the Evo Wizard, I mean, why would you play that when you could play a Goblin for the same elixir and you still get, like, so much area control with the ability and all of this stuff, right? So I feel like just a huge combination of factors kind of made the Wizard bad. Also, the meta is a little bit different than it used to be. It's a little bit more cycle-based right now, I feel like, as well. And for this next one, I don't think I actually want to put it in the D tier. I was considering it, guys, but you know what? I think I'll put the Archers at the bottom of the C tier, the Evo Archers. They're pretty bad. I mean, they just die to arrows, so, like, they're not too much more special than normal archers, but, like, sometimes in Xbow especially, you could sometimes just, like, go for them down the middle. You just, like, DPS down that, Ice Golem or Valkyrie or whatever, and they can get you some pretty good value. They're just not really used at all because, there's so much arrows, and that's really the main issue for them. But at least you can split them, so, you do have some way around things, I guess. Now, let's see what we have here up next. You know what, in C tier, I think we also have to put the Evo Battle Ram, guys. Evo Battle Ram, it was pretty decent for some time, actually, but then they kind of nerfed, like, the knockback and I think the damage of the knockback and stuff, but I feel like at the end of the day, it's just that Battle Ram's not that good right now compared to Ram Rider, and also it just, like, Battle Ram is not really meant to be played in the way that I feel like Evo Battle Ram should be played. Like, Evo Battle Ram, you want to keep it alive and stuff, but, like, with the normal Battle Ram, you kind of just, like, will kite it on... You use it to, like, kite stuff on defense and sometimes, like, tank for an Archer Queen and stuff like that. And when you play it on offense, you usually expect it to just, like, die on a cannon or something like that. And you just want to, like, bait out their buildings, kind of put them in an awkward spot, your opponents, that is. But with the Evo Ram, you get no value out of it unless you overprotect it, which just costs so much elixir. Now, joining the Battle Ram Evo in the C tier, I would have to say we have to put the Goblin Drill Evo here as well, guys. The Evo Goblin Drill just got that one nerf to where it no longer gets, like, the impact damage with its extra spawn-in forms, I guess you could say, with the Evo. And that really hurt it quite a bit. It gets countered way easier now by, like, skeletons, skeleton army, goblin gang, that kind of stuff. Like, storms do so much better against it now, so you get not that much value out of it oftentimes unless you have poison to go with it. Like, yeah, for example, even goblins could probably pretty easily counter the Evolved Drill now, whereas before they would probably get kind of knocked back and stuff like that. So that's really all there is to that one. In the C tier as well, I think I would have to put the Evo Pekka. Honestly, Evo Pekka could potentially go even a little bit lower than this, but I feel like it's not that terrible. Yeah, the Pekka before was really broken because the Evo just comboed so well with like that long range. You could always get these extra little kills, but now it seems like Pekka doesn't get quite as many kills quite as easily because the range just feels so much less. Like they just nerfed the range a little bit, but it feels like it went from a whole musketeer into like I don't know what a good comparison is, to like a skeleton, to where it has to go like right to the face of something now to actually, you know, be able to kill it. And Evo Pekka still gets some value, but only against the right decks. Like against certain matchups, it just gets zero value. Against like Goblin Gangs and Skarmies, it does not heal basically at all. So it's a little bit matchup based now. In the C tier as well, I am going to have to put the Evo RG. I always feel like people say Evo RG is so bad. They always say like how it's one of the worst Evos and it does nothing compared to a normal RG. But I kind of disagree, guys. I have to stand up for the Evo RG because with Evo RG, like, yes, it's not going to buff your RG's HP or damage, but like it will constantly knock back stuff, so that kind of can counter, you know, skeleton armies, goblins, goblin gang, especially paired with like a rage or something like that. And also, it can just like kind of perma knock back stuff like knights, for example. Like especially if you rage up that Evo RG and it's like shooting the tower, it can just perma knock back certain ground cards, which is pretty broken. So I think it's better than people give it credit for being, even though it's not the most amazing Evo of all time. Now, in the C tier as well, I'm going to have to put the Evolved Firecracker. I think Evolved Firecracker is definitely very overrated. People always say how broken it is, but it really doesn't do that much compared to a normal Firecracker. I mean, it just gets a bit more tower damage usually, and it can kind of clean up pushes a little bit better, but I don't really notice the slow effect of it. They buffed it to have like kind of a slow effect, such as the Poisons one, but I didn't really notice that change at all. And it does die to arrows still. Man, I miss when the Firecracker Evo didn't die to arrows. I want to bring back those days, please. Please bring back the broken Firecracker Supercell. But yeah, it's not a bad evolution. It's pretty much, I would say, one of the more balanced evolutions out there, actually. Now, let me think about this one. Would I put this in the C tier? I guess I will. Yeah, guys, I think I have to put the Evo Mortar in the top of the C tier. I don't know. Honestly, guys, the Evo Mortar could go in the low B tier. Just that Mortar is pretty weak right now. I haven't really seen it too much. And I feel like the reason why is because a lot of these newer cycle decks, like these minor poison decks or, you know, Hog EQ decks, Royal Hogs EQ, they kind of counter Mortar pretty decently. So I haven't been seeing it as much recently. The Evo Mortar, it's definitely not bad, but like ever since they nerfed the HP of it to be like a normal mortar, it doesn't feel like that threatening to me as it used to. And also, it used to like just shoot instantaneously to the tower, but now it's actually pretty mellow, surprisingly. So yeah, it's good, but like not unstoppable. And let's see what I would say next here. Okay, this. Yeah, okay, I think we have to move to the B tier right now, guys. I think we have to move to the B tier. For the bottom of the B tier, I'm going to put the Evo Skeletons. It's kind of hard to say whether they should go in the C tier or B tier. Probably B tier is fine. I feel like they're not a bad evolution at all, but it just like most of the time in cycle decks, you always want to use other Evos, like, you know, some Evos that we'll have coming soon. You know, that's all I'm going to say. But yeah, in a lot of other cycle decks that people have been playing, the skeletons are just not really the Evo that's chosen, because ever since they turned to 3 skeletons, it's a lot harder to chain them unless you pair them with like, you know, an Ice Spirit in front of it, or like, you know, an Ice Golem, something like that. If you just go for them by themselves, they don't usually chain on stuff unless it's a, you know, mini Pekka or a Pekka, something very slow hitting. Okay, so up next, I would say we could put the Evo Wallbreakers in the B tier. The Evo Wallbreakers are actually, I feel like, very strong ever since their buff. They can kill a Mother Witch on defense just from like the, you know, explosion damage of them, which I feel like is very good. They definitely have some good defensive value. And if your opponent doesn't have like a cannon to stop them, they can actually be really good. And especially if cannon gets like a nerf soon or something like that, man, they could be so broken, because I feel like cannon is probably the best counter to them, or going for like a Spirit plus log. But yeah, if that gets nerfed, then man, Evo Wallbreakers will be quite the force to be messed with, I guess you could say. All right, and next up, I think I do have to put the Evo Dark Goblin in the B tier, guys. I see people always saying like how broken it is. Like, for example, Riley or these other top bait players, they say like, oh, Evo Dark Goblin nerfed that card. It's so incredibly broken. But whenever I face these bait players on ladder, they never use Evo Dark Goblin. Like, they always say how broken it is, but then like half these bait decks, they have Dark Goblin, but it's not even evolved. Like, they evolved their Barrel, they evolved their Valkyrie, but not the Dark Goblin. So why is that if it's so broken? I feel like it is really broken if your opponent doesn't spell it down with like arrows, but everyone has arrows. So why wouldn't they spell it down? And also, it's not really very good against cycle decks. I mean, it can be, but like, it's not that amazing. It's just okay against cycle decks. But against like Lava Hound, if they have no arrows or no elixir for a fireball, it will single-handedly kill a 20 elixir push, so it does have potential to get insane value, kind of just like an E-Drag, for example. And speaking of E-Drag, that's actually the card we're going to rank next right here, right above the Dark Goblin. People also do tend to say Evo E-Drag is really broken, and it definitely can be, but I feel like it's all about perspective as well, because it can shut down a whole, like, 30 elixir golem push, 30 elixir lava hound push, but only if you don't have a lightning. And so many people have lightning these days just to counter Goblinstein or, whatever else it might be, all these other different buildings and stuff like that. So I think B tier is pretty safe for the Evo E-Drag. It's not really a super versatile evolution either. Not a crazy amount of decks actually use it, but the decks that do use it seem to get quite good success out of it. And I guess we could say, I would say Evo Musketeer could go right above the Electro Dragon. Evo Musketeer is actually quite an underrated evolution. I've noticed that quite a few Balloon players use it now. Also, 2.6 players have sometimes been switching to it. I think it's a really solid evolution, pretty much perfectly balanced, in my opinion. Yeah, it's like right in the middle of the B tier, and it's like, yeah, just very solid, but not too annoying to deal with, and not too strong. I mean, the sniper shots do so much damage, and it's kind of hard to block them, because they just, it will just like instantly lock onto something, and it won't get off of that thing, even if you play another unit in front of, said card that it targets. Alright, and above the Musketeer, I mean, snap, this is kind of hard to say. I think I would put Evo Recruits above the Musketeer. Evo Recruits, people always say how broken it is, and to be fair, they kind of do have a point, guys. For some reason, Evo Recruits, they got a nerf, but then they got better after the nerf. Like, Recruits are more popular now than they were, like, 2 months ago when they were better. I don't know why it got better after the nerf, but it did. I guess, like, the meta just somehow shifted to be better for it, but I do love the Evo Cannon against the Recruits, I will say that. But yeah, they're still very hard to stop. I hate how the charging Recruits can just, like, one-shot a Spirit. It doesn't feel right that Recruits are running across the map the way they do, and you get to them so often throughout the game because, it's only one cycle to get to them. So, yeah. And moving up into the higher B tier, I would say we could put the Evo Valkyrie. Evo Valkyrie is actually very solid right now. Honestly, could even be a little bit higher than this because it's just so broken in Lava Hound. It's good in Hog Executioner and some bait decks, stuff like that. It's kind of like a bit more of an off-meta evolution that not every deck uses because not a crazy amount of decks use the Evo. I mean, even use the normal Valkyrie, so they can't even have the option to use the Evo, but the decks that do have Valkyrie, I feel like they usually do so well with the Evo, so it's a very good evolution. It can single-handedly kill a whole Golem Nightwish push, and it's so broken behind a Lava Hound push sometimes because they'll just like stand it behind the Lava Hound. You go for your Musketeer to kill the Lava, but then the Evo Valk will just yank in your Musketeer. Even if you try to play an Ice Golem, the NATO effect will still usually just like pull your stuff in all the time, it feels like. So right above the Valkyrie in the B tier, I'm going to have to put the Evolution Bomber. Bomber is actually pretty decent right now. I feel like it's actually also relatively balanced. It used to be super broken, but now it feels like you can't really take your opponent's whole tower with it anymore like you used to be able to. You kind of just have to steadily chip with it sometimes, and sometimes you even use it on defense and stuff like that. Yeah, because its bomb can no longer hit the same target twice, so it's used in stuff like Giant mostly, and just a bunch of off-meta random stuff. I feel like there's no super meta decks that use it, but it's definitely quite solid in the decks that do use it, I would say. Alright, and I think we do have to move on to the A tier right now. No, actually, hold up. We have one more B tier. No, I think I'll actually put Evo Zap in the B tier as well. I think this is my last B tier card right here, guys. The Evo Zap. We have the Evo Zap in the B tier. I feel like Evo Zap, it's a very solid evolution. It's very good in Lava Hound. It's good in whatever decks use Zap, like some Balloon decks and things like that, but not many decks even use Zap in the first place. And yeah, man, it's kind of crazy to think about how broken Evo Zap once was, because it was once 3 zaps. It was once 3 zaps. Now it's 2 zaps, and it's still actually a very solid evolution. It does take a while to get to, but once the Lava Hound players do get to it, they can use it to kill stuff like Archer Queens in combination with a Fireball. So it's kind of like an arrows. Like every 3rd zap is kind of like arrows when you have the evolved zap, which is pretty solid, I would say. Alright, now, I guess for the... Well, let me think here. Okay, you know what? For the top of the B tier, guys, I'm going to put the Evo Bats. Honestly, Evo Bats could have maybe slipped into the A tier, but I don't know. I think I would have put them in the A tier like a month back or so when Evo Mortar was everywhere, and, those Cannon Cart Mortar decks were everywhere with the Evo Bats and stuff like that, but Evo Bats, they're very solid. Yeah, they could get a ton of value sometimes, but like Evo Skeletons, they can just be countered kind of easily with like any small spell like a Rage, Snowball, Arrows. anything like that. But you do have to be quick, though, to be fair. Like, with Evo Skeletons, they can die at any time to those spells, but with the Evo Bats, like, they actually will survive, you know, like, the damage of a Zap or a Rage or something like that, if your opponent is not quick. And especially for something like a Snowball, where it takes some time to travel through the map, you can often get great value out of the little fellas, the Evo Bats. So I think they're pretty solid. They're used in a decent amount of decks, but they're not like absurdly popular or absurdly broken or anything like that. Now, guys, moving up to the A tier, we have the Evolved Knight. Evolved Knight, I mean, it's really made quite a comeback recently. It was really broken at one point, then it got a few nerfs, and it kind of just fell off little by little, just gradually fell off. But I feel like it's pretty good right now. It's really good in Graveyard. It's really good in these random Giant decks, in random Sparky decks. It's just used quite a bit in Beatdown, and maybe even in stuff like Xbow sometimes as well. It's really not a bad evolution at all. It always gets the job done. It's always a safe evolution. It's not really always going to be game-changing, but sometimes it can really help you make some good double lane pushes also, like where you have like a Pekka one side, and then the other side you don't really have much of a tanky card, but then you actually have the Evo Knight. And then the Evo Knight, even though it's not that tanky, it has the evolution, so then it will take like no damage from a lot of stuff. So it can be really menacing sometimes, is what I'm trying to say. Oh, and you know what? Now that I think about it, guys, we do have another fella that I think I have to put up here in the A tier. We have the Evo Goblin Giant. Guys, Evo Goblin Giant, it got a nerf, actually, a very small nerf to where it spawns goblins a bit less often, but I feel like with the rage that most of the Goblin Giant decks run, it really doesn't matter because you still get goblins so quickly out of it. And yeah, the Goblin Giant itself is actually really solid right now. It's just able to apply so much pressure and have those goblins in the back just constantly attacking the buildings, attacking the towers, and they reach so far, man. I feel like they maybe need to nerf the distance that the goblins from the Goblin Giant reach, and maybe that would balance it out better, and in turn the evolution would probably also fall off a little bit. But I don't think the evolution is necessarily really broken or anything. It's just that the normal Goblin Giant is already great and the Evo just pairs perfectly with it. Maybe they could give it a very small nerf to the spawning speed again, but I'm not really sure. Now, in the A tier as well, I think we can just put the... Actually, I'll put the... You know what, guys? I'll put the Evo Barrel in the A tier as well. Evo Barrel, it's really broken, actually. Like, some people might kind of disagree with my choice and say I should put it in the lower A tier, or like even the B tier or something like that. But I feel like Evo Barrel is such a good evolution. Like, for example, guys, these bait spammy decks with like Wall Breakers, Dark Goblin, and stuff like that, they would just not exist if it weren't for Evo Barrel. Like, it's literally Evo Barrel creating a whole new deck. You don't see that often, right? Like, for example, Goblin Drill Evolution or Battle Ram Evolution, like, you still see the same decks, they just have the Evo. But like, for Barrel, you literally make a whole deck around it now that it has the Evo, because it allows you to make so much better double lane pressure having that evolution. And it's just game changing. There's really almost no good trades against it. Like, the best case scenario is to go for an E-Spirit one side, Log other side, but how many decks even run the E-Spirit? Only RG, really. So yeah, it's just a really good card for double lane pressure, especially. And against Cannoneer, guys, don't even get me started on that. It's so broken against Cannoneer. Against Duchess, it does kind of suck, though, to be fair. Now, above the Evo Barrel in A tier, I think I do have to put the Evo Goblin Cage. Evo Goblin Cage actually feels so good right now. It's so good in Lava Hound. It's so good in Recruits. It's so good in, what else? Like, you know, random balloon decks. It's just good in a bunch of random beatdown decks. And also Golem. I have been seeing quite a bit more Golem recently, and Evo Cage is amazing in it, so it's really the perfect option for almost any beatdown deck. Not much more to say about it. It just pulls stuff in, and the stuff does not come out unless the cage dies. And yeah, you just always get so much more value out of it than a normal cage, because you just can pull in a whole Pekka and kill it for 4 elixir, and you have a fully healthy counter-pushing brawler that has more HP than normal as well. Don't forget that part. Now, for the next A tier card, I'm going to put the Evo Ice Spirit. I think Evo Ice Spirit is still really broken, guys. I have to kind of take back my words, I guess, because I was thinking that Evo Ice Spirit was garbage after the nerf it got when it turned from 3 waves to 2, but it actually seems almost as good as before, because it still does the same damage. It just does it more at once, I guess you could say, because it actually one-shots Spear Goblins, which is kind of insane to think about. That's kind of like a Fire Spirit level of damage almost that the Evo Ice Spirit does, except it does 2 waves of that damage, which is pretty crazy. And yeah, I think it's really solid. There's not too much to say about it. It still gets the job done on defense, just like the old Evo Ice Spirit used to do. And yeah, it does quite a bit of tower damage, kills Spear Goblins in 1 hit. I like it a lot. It's very good in Cycle decks. Definitely the preferred choice over Evo Skeletons most of the time. Okay, now, guys. Which way do I order these ones? I think I have to do it like this. Okay, guys. For our first S tier evolution, we have the Evolved Mega Knight. I think I had to do it, guys. I had to put Evo Mega Knight in the S tier. Like, normal Mega Knight is complete garbage right now. Complete garbage. But the Evo Mega Knight is so incredibly broken, guys. Imagine that Mega Knight itself was actually really good in this meta. Then picture just how much more broken Evo Mega Knight would make it. Like, Evo Mega Knight is actually crazy. Like, it's genuinely crazy. It can just, like, chuck stuff up in the air and then just get straight on your tower. Like, a Pekka doesn't counter it. How does that work? How does a Pekka not counter a Mega Knight? It doesn't make sense. I don't know what they should do to it. They need to, I guess, somehow rework it to, like, only knock stuff up in the air after, like, maybe 2 normal punches or something like that. I'm not really sure. They have to figure out something, though. I feel like it's just a little bit unbalanced. Or maybe they could just make it, like, not throw stuff up as far as it currently does. I would say that's the best thing to do. Now, joining the Mega Knight in the S tier, guys, we have the Evo Cannon. I think nobody is surprised about this. Evo Cannon was so bad, I guess, for so long. Like, not for so long, but like for a little bit. Like, nobody used it, but then all of a sudden it got like a 10% damage buff, and now everybody's playing it everywhere. I don't even know if that buff was the reason it started getting played, though. I feel like people just didn't realize it was really good before. But yeah, it's so nice to kill Dark Goblins, Firecrackers, Princesses, all of that kind of stuff, even Archers, Goblin Gangs. It just covers such a large area. It can even hit your opponent's tower if you play it in the pocket in a 1-to-1 situation. So yeah, I think Evo Cannon is just the go-to evolution right now for cycle decks, and you get to Cannon so often throughout a game, I feel like, and Cannon really is just the go-to building right now. So yeah, just in so many decks as well. And guys, finally, for the very best evolution in Clash Royale, we have the Evolved Lumberjack. This is the best evolution by far. Now, after it got the nerf, guys, to where it couldn't be extended, like the Ghost couldn't be extended with the Rage, I thought it would be kind of bad. I thought it would fall off a little bit, or just be like a kind of mid-tier evolution, but it turns out no, guys. Like, it's a lot easier to counter now. Like, you can kind of kite the Ghost sometimes, but the thing is, if the Lumberjack gets too close to your tower, you can't kite it or do anything. You just have to let it get so much damage, usually, or just waste all of your elixir. And it's so much harder to defend it when there's also other stuff coming at you, like an RG or a Hog Rider that you also have to deal with. So it's so hard to multitask and focus on the Ghost while you're defending other things. I feel like that's why it's so broken. So yeah, guys, thank you all so much for watching, and let me know in the comments what you think about this tier list. Have a good one, guys. Bye!